Hey guys, it's Hogan here and welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to be showing you guys how to speed up your website so it loads faster and also performs a lot faster. So I didn't really want to be on camera today because my hair is getting super long because it's still in lockdown in Melbourne. Hopefully we get out pretty soon. But anyways, in this quick video, I want to show you guys step by step how to fix your speed. So I'm actually going to show you basically everything that I personally do for my own website and for my client's website as well. So I've tested the speed for this page over here. So it's like a blog page and it's around 4.1 megabytes. Now the load time is under a second. So 634 ms for San Francisco. So it's super fast. It's loading under a second, right? So make sure you stick to the very end of the video because that's probably going to make the biggest difference, the last way to actually speed up your website. But I'm going to be going through everything else as well. Okay, so over here, this one's for North America, San Francisco. It's around 700 ms for a 2.6 MB page, right? So this one over here, Washington DC, is around 1.1. So it's really fast. Now, the first step to actually speed up your website is going to be your images, because I have a lot of people who follow my tutorials, and especially for e-commerce websites, you want to make sure that you have just sort of like a plain background for your product images, because it's going to save a ton of space, right? So if you go to my web design guide on my website, so I'll sort of leave the links in the description if you want to check that out. But if we have just like a normal image without any background, it's going to be like 61 kilobytes, right? And this one over here, it's like 287. So if you have 10 images or a dozen images on your product page, it's going to make a big difference. So generally, what I do is, let's say if you have an image like this, right? You want to display sort of your product, maybe having someone to use your product. Then you want to make sure that is not your featured image, but after they click into that image, like for example on Nike, after you click into an image, then they showcase the product in use, right? So have that image in your actual product page rather than having it on your sort of like a shop page, right? So I'm actually going to show you guys how, or the process of doing it. So let's just say, for example, you've taken a photo of your product. Okay, so I'm just going to download it from here. So download it onto your computer. Okay, and then I'm just going to go to a website called Remove BG. Okay, so this is a really cool website if you don't really know how to use Photoshop to crop out your images. We're going to click on remove background and then upload your image. And then I'm going to select, I think it was this one over here, and open. Okay, so what it's going to do is just going to remove the background of that image. So I'm going to download it as high resolution. So let's click on that. And I'm going to edit it because I think there is some issue over there. So what we're going to do is we're going to erase that error. Okay, so let's just erase that. Just do that really quickly. Okay, so that's really rough. Hopefully that's okay. You can also restore it as well. So let's just restore that bit. Okay, something like that, right? So once you've done that, then we're going to click on download, and I'm going to download that image. Okay, so generally a PNG file is going to be bigger. Okay, it's going to be much bigger than a JPEG. So what you want to do is, normally for your logo for your website, you want to keep it as a PNG. Now for let's say a product image, you want to be a JPEG. So normally what I do is I put it into Photoshop. Okay, so this is a canvas size of 800 by 800. So 800 in width and 800 in the height. So I'm going to drag that image in. Okay, then I'm just going to resize it a tad like that to make sure it fits in well. Okay, so just something like that. So then we're going to click on tick, and that should be okay. So here I'm going to maybe add in a background, so background color. Okay, so I've added in a light gray for the background color. And then over here, we're going to just save or export it. So this one, I'm going to save it as high, and make sure you save it as a JPEG. And this one, you can keep the quality as 60, or maybe if you want to make it lower, like 50, that should be okay as well. And we're going to click on save, right? So we're just going to save that onto our desktop. So over here, so let's just click on that, right? And let's click on the get info. So what you're going to notice is this file size is going to be 67 kilobytes, right? That's going to be tiny. Let's just say, for example, you actually put the whole sort of image in. for example, like this. Okay, let's just make it a little bit bigger. This is probably not the ideal image, but hopefully you guys get the idea. So let's just put that in, save it, and then let's export it and save for web. Okay, so that's going to be 154. So like pretty much double the size of that image, right? So if you have a ton of images, it's going to be super slow. Okay, so that's the first most important thing, because for e-commerce sites, you're already taking up a ton of resources when you're like running WooCommerce and things like that. So the next thing is probably going to be like your hero images. So with your hero image, you want to keep it around this size, so around 1,800 times about 1,000 in height. Okay, so you can go to photo and you can crop your images there, which is what I normally do. Okay, because I think that's really, really important. Make sure you crop it before you put it in. And then you've also got the sort of images which you might use for your blog post, like your featured image. I normally crop it to about half the size of the hero image. Okay, so you want to make sure that you keep the sizes sort of proportional to what you want to display on your actual page. So besides cropping and preparing your images, a plugin that you can use is called Smush, and that's going to help you further reduce the image sizes by compressing it and also deleting some of the metadata on your images. So your metadata is basically like the sort of when you take the photo, it's going to record like which camera you've been using and the shutter speed and things like that. It's going to delete that information. It's going to help reduce it a little bit, but not by too much, but it does help. Okay, and it's also got a feature called lazy loading, and what that basically does is that generally when your website loads, it's going to load all your images at the same time, but with lazy loading, it's going to load it sort of as your visitor scrolls down, so that's going to help with your load times. Then you can also use a plugin called WP Fastest Cache, and what your cache is sort of just like temporary storage for your website. So the plugin is basically going to help store some of the files in your cache, right? So every time that your website loads, it needs to load the files from your server, right? But with the plugin, some of your files can be loaded from your temporary storage area. That way, it's going to be a lot quicker. It doesn't need to use as much server resources as well. Okay, so generally for the settings, I just turn this on. It's a quick note. Now, if you're using SiteGround and you're using the SiteGround Optimizer plugin, that has the caching functionality built in already. So you probably don't need another caching plugin, right? So you don't have to have like a duplicate. So, you know, a lot of hosting companies might have their own. So in that case, probably use their own. If you're not using any one at the moment, then you can use this one. Personally, I use this one most of the time. For my main website, Hogan Chua, I'm using WP Rocket, which is a premium one, but you probably don't need that yet. But I'll leave the link for that in the description if you do want to check that one out. But most of the time, this should be good enough to help you optimize your website. So normally I just tick everything. Okay, so I ensure everything's ticked. Click on OK, OK, this one as well, this one. And for the minify HTML, it basically just reduces the sort of the code on your website as well as the CSS as well. So I generally just tick everything. Sometimes it might sort of break your website a little bit, like sometimes it might not display properly, and you might need to uncheck them as well to double check it. Okay, but generally it should be okay because I've done it a lot of times already and it should be okay with most website builders. But in the odd occasion, you might need to unselect it and check it, okay, if it doesn't actually load properly. So once you've done that, you need to clear all cache, and what you probably want to do is just like copy it and open your website in a new incognito mode, and just to double check everything if it's functioning okay. Okay, so I think that is looking pretty good. All right, then if we go over here, and then this is the speed that we tested at before, and if we start the test now again. Okay, so as you can see, it's sped up the load time by quite a bit and also increased the performance. But generally, you don't really have to focus too much attention on the performance and, you know, what grade that you're getting. The most important metric is going to be the load time, because your customers don't really care about, you know, what score you've gotten, right? They care about how fast the website is for them, and that's the most important thing. So don't focus too much if your performance isn't that great. So another thing which I recommend and sometimes can be overlooked is that you should delete the themes and plugins which you are not using on your website, right? So just click on it, and then just delete all the ones that you're not using. Sometimes I just keep one because I might need to use it if I need to deactivate this theme, right? So for the plugins, you also want to make sure that you delete and deactivate the ones that you're not using. For example, sometimes you can achieve what you need with your current theme. So whichever theme that you're using, you can search up, your theme and then type in docs. Because a lot of the times that I see people who follow my videos is that you're adding extra plugins that you don't really need, because you can actually achieve everything with the theme itself, right? So for example, if we want to add in a button to our sort of menu item, so we can click on menus over here. Then we can also just select like the highlight button. Okay, so the website is loading slow in the backend area, which I'll talk about later. So let's go over here, and actually this one over here. So we selected this one, highlight this link, and save the menu. And then we can click on visit site over here. Okay, and that's going to add the sort of button on our menu item, right? So we can achieve that by just doing that, right? And also if you want to add like a call button, like for example, if someone presses on that, then we can turn on the builder. And I think this is going to be the same if you're using Elementor or any other page builder. We can just put in the button module. So let's just say, for example, drag it and put it down over here. You can do something like the link, just TEL, so telephone, and then the colon, and then you just put in your number, right? So you can achieve the call button just like that without adding any additional sort of plugin for that, right? So it's really important that you try to keep your plugins to a minimum, because sometimes it can also break your website when you update your website, and it can be hacked with unupdated plugins and things like that. So the next thing is probably you want to also make sure you reduce the animations on your website. So I see a lot of people who add animations, but you don't really need any animations, to be honest. For example, a lot of builders have different things which you can add on. Try to remove all those if you don't need it. Okay, unless you're telling a story, about your product, then you can use it. But if you're just adding it in because it's cool, in my opinion, that's not the best way to do it. You just need some really good images and just good design. Don't need any animations to make it look good. Then the next thing is going to be your server locations, right? So let's say, for example, we take this website over here and we put this in. Okay, so we've set this to be tested from North America and San Francisco, right? So what if we change the location to Australia and we start the test? So the time is going to be different, right? The reason for that is because the server, the hosting server, is located in the United States. So if it's being tested from the United States, it's going to load a lot quicker. If it's being tested, or if your visitor is visiting from Australia, it's going to be a lot slower. So this is something to take into consideration, where your server is actually located, right? So some companies, for example, like HostGator and Bluehost, you can't really select the destination where you want your server to be located. You can actually check it if you do want to, so just copy it. And then you can go to a website called check-host.net, and then just paste that in and click on info, and you can check where your website is located or where is it hosted. Okay, so you can also contact your host, see if they can move you to a different location. I know that with SiteGround you can change your location. So what you probably want to do is you want to make sure that your server is closer to your audience. So if you're not sure who your main audience is, then you probably want to download Google Analytics onto your website and connect that up, and then you can check where your audience is coming from, and then you can select a server which is closer, and then that website's going to load faster, right? So if you don't have the option to do that, then you probably need to add a content delivery network. So a content delivery network, or a CDN, is basically just like a network of servers around the world, and they can basically house some of your data. So whenever someone is accessing your website, let's say for example you have a server in the United States and you have a CDN, and then the CDN has networks all around the world, so it's going to help deliver that data quicker to that specific audience from that region, right? So there are quite a few different options. For example, stackpath.com. So I think that's around $10 a month. And there's another one which is called cloudflare.com, and that one is free. So you can actually sign up for free and add your website and things like that. And then you get an API key, and which you can just input into your website. So go back to your dashboard area, and with the WP fastest cache or any other caching plugin, you should be able to add in the sort of API and connect the CDN network together. So click on CDN over here. So it connects with StackPath and also Cloudflare and also other ones as well if you do want to connect it up. If you guys are using SiteGround, then SiteGround already has the CDN, which you can integrate within the dashboard area. So once you log in, click on websites over here, and then scroll down, and then we can add the Cloudflare CDN within the dashboard area. So we can click on add, and then we can scroll down to the free one and select it, and then we can select our domain. So let's say, for example, we want that domain, go to cPanel. Okay, so then you just need to scroll down and find the domain that you want to activate, and just click on activate free and just activate it that way. And the thing I've noticed once you've actually added this CDN onto your website is that sometimes if it doesn't load, then you might have to go to the settings area and change your SSL settings to the full strict mode, okay? And that's if you have the SSL included already. So that's what you just have to do. And when you're actually testing your website speed, once you've actually activated your CDN, now it's not going to load fast instantly because it takes time to actually sort of cache into the networks. So you want to wait 24 hours for people to actually go to your website, and then it's going to cache, then it starts to load a lot quicker, right? So if you test like your own sort of location, then it'll probably load a lot quicker to start off with. So for example, the website that I just added was the site demo123.com, and I think it was like a www in front as well. So I'm just going to type that in. Okay, so if I check, let's say San Francisco. So this is just a test website. There's no traffic on the website at the moment. So the website load time is going to be quite long because it hasn't cached yet. But if we actually test it from like Sydney, then it's quite fast. Okay, so as you can see, it takes 12 seconds for that to load, and that's mainly because it hasn't cached yet, right? But if we actually check the Sydney one, because I've just opened the website already before, then it should load quite fast. So it needs some time to cache. If you don't have any traffic from that region, then it might be slow. Okay, so for the Sydney one, it's around 1 second. So that's pretty good, so you have to take that into consideration as well. Okay, so if your website is still slow, then it's probably not going to be the optimizations that is going to help the speed of your website. So if you go to Pingdom and you put in Apple's sort of website address, just any page, and you can set it to North America, and what you're going to notice is that a page of 6 megabytes, which is quite large, the performance is 79, but the load time is under 1 second. So it's like really fast for a huge website with a bad performance. So the reason why they can do that is because their servers, so their host. So their host is probably going to be like a really good dedicated server for their website, right? So most people, when you first start out, you probably are recommended shared hosting, and that's what I generally recommend in my sort of beginner website tutorials. I recommend people shared hosting mainly because it's affordable and generally reliable for your websites and great to start out on. But if you really want to speed up your website, you're going to have to move to something called cloud hosting, which is still affordable, but still going to be really high performance for your website. So this is what I'm currently using for hoganchua.com. So the main difference of, let's say, shared hosting and cloud hosting is going to be like, shared hosting is going to be one server shared among different websites. For example, hundreds of websites, it's going to share one server. So it's essentially like if you're at home, then if everyone's using just one computer, then it's going to be slow, right? If everyone's using it, someone's using it for gaming, someone's using it for browsing, someone's using it to watch movies, and you just want to use the internet to do your homework, it's going to be quite slow, right? Cloud hosting is a little bit different, where your website files is distributed among several servers, and it's a lot more faster, and it's going to be a lot more reliable. So for example, I've tested my website on this website over here. So 50 virtual users coming onto the website, and the response time is very reliable. But for shared hosting, it's going to be a little bit more unreliable. As you can see, it just like the response time sometimes goes up, sometimes goes down, right? So if you really want to improve your sort of website performance in terms of like speed, let's say if we turn on the builder, it might be loading quite slowly. And especially if you're building an e-commerce website, it's going to be quite frustrating, especially if you have a ton of products, it's going to load slowly. So what I recommend is probably switching to cloud hosting. And what you can do is, the current hosting that I'm using now is Cloudways. So you can check out the link down below to get a free trial, and you don't have to put a credit card at all. So you can actually just try it out yourself. If you don't like it, then fine. But I highly recommend trying it out, mainly because it's really affordable. It starts from like $10 a month, and that actually compares to shared hosting plans after the initial renewals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to set it up, how to migrate your website to Cloudways into the sort of testing area, so you can actually try it out yourself. I also did a full review and tutorial on them a few months ago, and that's when I moved one of my local websites over here because they have access to 5 cloud providers. So basically they're a platform that allows you to set up your website with DigitalOcean, AWS, Vultr, Google Cloud, and Linode. So generally you can go straight to these companies, but it does take a little bit more setting up. It's a little bit more technical, and personally I don't recommend it for most beginners, and this one gives you a lot of control and a lot of functionality as well as support. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to set it up right now. Okay, so just click on start a free trial, and then over here just enter in your name and email. So I've already got an account. I'm just going to create a new account and set it up with you guys. And then I'm going to select maybe digital agency and maybe 0 to 50. Click on got a promo code, and we're going to enter in Hogan, and that's going to give you, I think, 10% off for the first 3 months if you do end up signing up, but it's completely free for now, so don't worry about it. Okay, not sure why that has popped up. Let's try that again. Okay, so now we are directed over here. We're just going to close that. So what you need to do is probably verify your email first. So let's click over here and just verify and activate the account. Okay, so once you verified your account, it should say thank you. Now we can actually launch our free trial server. So you can choose any server that you want. Generally for the pricing, in terms of price, AWS and Google Cloud is going to be a little bit more expensive. The benefit of AWS and Google, it's going to be like you can actually increase your server size anytime that you want, and you can also decrease the server size anytime that you want. So with these other servers, if you actually increase the server size, you'll have to manually clone your website or your server and then start a new server. So that might result in a little bit of downtime, maybe like 10-15 minutes or something like that. So this one's going to be a lot more convenient, especially if you have like a e-commerce store that is already getting traffic, and maybe let's say for example during Christmas you might have a ton of traffic, and then after that, like in January, you might have a drop in traffic. Then you can actually decrease the server size. So let's say for example if you go with AWS and we select, let's say, a medium plan, right? And sometimes if your website's getting more traffic, then you'll need to increase your resources. And let's say for example December you increase your resources to a medium plan, and then January you can easily just move it down. So with these ones, right, you can move it up easily, but if you want to move it down, you have to clone the entire server. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set it up on Vultr, so basically the new high frequency servers, and what I'm currently using for my website now. So let's go back over here. So here we've got the standard one, and it's only $11 a month. For DigitalOcean, the cheapest plan is I think $10. Okay, so you can go with that if you do want to as well. I'm going to select this one and select high frequency, and then select 1 GB. And then here for your location, so earlier I was talking about your server location. You want to choose a location which is closer to your audience. So for example, if my viewers on YouTube, a lot of them are from the United States, so I would probably go United States. But let's say for example, if I'm a local business, then I would pick Sydney, right? So if I'm a local business in Australia, I'll pick Sydney. That's going to be closer, and that's what I'm going to set up right now. So then we can click on launch now, and that's going to launch your server, which is going to take just a few minutes. So just take a little rest. Okay, so the server is up and running. So the server is sort of like the computer where you store your website files, and the applications is where we actually install WordPress. So sort of like your programs. So I think they have already installed WordPress already for the first project. But generally you'll have like a little drop down, right? It'll have a little drop down to actually install WordPress. Just click on OK for all these. I'll just show you guys how to set it up. So over here, we can click on access details, and for the admin panel, we can click over here. All right. And that's going to take you to the sort of staging area on the Cloudways platform. So we can copy that and just paste that into here. And then we're going to copy over that password and we're going to paste it into here and click on login. So that's going to log in to your WordPress dashboard. So as you can see, it's super easy to set up WordPress. Now I'm going to show you guys, how quick it is. So you can actually just try it out yourself. Just try and browse the website and click a few things, and you can see that everything loads like instantly. So it's like a really fast computer, and I just think it's a lot more enjoyable to be building a website on a faster server. So to actually migrate your website, I'm gonna show you guys an example, use this website as an example. So start a blog. All you need to do is go to your existing website, existing WordPress website, and click back to your dashboard. And all we need to do is install a plugin, and it's super easy to migrate it. So I actually personally thought it was like really hard. When I first migrated my website, I thought everything would be like really hard and I'll probably need to hire someone to do it, but it's actually really simple. Click on add new. And we need to download a plugin. It's going to be called Cloudways Migrator. So just type in Cloudways, and then it's this one over here. Click on install and activate. Okay, once that is activated, just click on the settings, or you can navigate to Cloudways Migrate over here. So over here, just put in the email that you signed up with. Okay, oops, that's the password. The email is parallaxdemo91@gmail.com. The destination URL is going to be found over here, the admin panel URL. So just copy that. We're just going to copy it from here. So copy that URL. And then come back to your website and just paste that in. Okay, so it's the whole URL. And for the database name, then we just need to click back over here. And this is your database name, so copy that. Come back over here, paste that in. The server public IP address, so this one is going to be over here on the right hand side. So copy that and come back and paste that in. The SFTP username and password, this is going to be found not here, it's going to be found on the server. So click on server, let's click into that one and click on got it. Okay, copy that, come back over here, paste that in, and then the password. So let's grab that. Okay, then click on I agree and it's going to migrate over. So it's going to take probably 10-15 minutes depending on how big your website is. So just let it run and then come back a little bit later, and they'll also send you an email telling you the migration has been completed, and then we can access it, and I'll show you guys like how fast it is and show you guys how to connect it with your domain name if you do want to move over. Okay, so obviously you don't have to move over. I just want to show you guys because it's going to make the biggest difference in terms of speed. So just a quick note that when you're actually migrating your website, let's say for example migrating from this URL to this URL over here, this URL is still going to be active and live for your visitors to actually visit, to buy stuff or whatever it is. We're just moving the files to a test area, which you can delete later. So it doesn't have any impact on your current server and things like that until you actually change like the A record or the name server basically, that actually points to that domain name. Okay, so I'll actually show you guys a little bit later, but don't worry about it. Your website will still be up as you are migrating. So for example, if we, okay, so let's just leave that as is, click on go to. So you can still actually use it, but I probably wouldn't recommend changing anything because it's trying to duplicate and copy over the files. If you change anything, it might mess it up. So you probably don't want to like turn on Builder and start building out your website while that is sort of migrating. All right. So we'll just wait for that to fully migrate, and then I'll show you guys how to sort of change your A record, which is like the domain name. Okay, so depending on how big your website is, for me that took around 10-15 minutes. That has completed. So we're going to click on visit migrated site, and what you're going to see is your website directly transferred over to the staging area. All right, so here we can just log in. So wp-admin, click on enter, and it's going to retain the password that we set in before for our old blog. So you want to enter the old password and old username and then log in. Alright, so this is the dashboard and it has everything that you have on here. So what we're going to do is just visit the website, and you can just test out the speed yourself, refresh it. You can turn on the builder, you can move things around like that. We can close things. So you can click back onto your dashboard area, click on pages, and let's create a new page. So as you can see, it's just loading a lot quicker. Yeah, so you can just test it out for yourself and just try it out yourself. If you don't actually sign up, then 3 days later it's going to delete everything on the server. Okay, so it'll also email you and stuff like that. But let's just say, for example, you're happy with it and you're ready to transfer it over. So that is also a really simple process as well. So all we need to do for that is we just need to go to your domain registrar. So let's just say, for example, the domain registrar is for this domain is in GoDaddy. We just go to GoDaddy, right? And what you need to do is for the name servers, we just need to click on change. Now this is going to be a different domain name, but let's just pretend this domain name is the starterblog1234. Here we just set, I'll use the GoDaddy name servers recommended, click on save, because what we actually need to do is copy over the A record. So let's just continue that. So go back to your Cloudways account, and what you need to do is copy the public IP, copy that address, and then let's go back to over here. And then we need to go to the domain settings. Let's go back to where we can actually change the A record. So we're going to scroll down over here to manage DNS. And then for the A record here, name, we're just going to click on that, and point it to here. Okay, so that's going to be the IP address. Leave this as default, custom, and 600. And I normally just put @ okay, click on save, and then that should be ready to go. So now if we actually visit this domain over here, then it should actually have the website content over, right? But before we actually do that, we do have to do one more thing. We have to change the domain name on our server. So let's go back to applications, click on your application, and then click on the domain name over here, domain name management, and we need to copy over that domain first, and we're going to paste that in like that and save changes. Okay, so once you've done that, then what I recommend doing is basically clearing the varnish, which is like the cache sort of thing, and to do that we just need to wait for that to finish. Okay, so that's completed. Click on servers over here, click onto that, and then let's click on the manage services, I believe. Scroll down, and then here we're going to purge the varnish, and then we can click on settings over here. So you can also optimize it and increase the PHP version as well as the upload size and things like that. Generally I just keep it like 50 over here. Let's just click on save. You can also increase the memory limit a little bit, like double it as well, to increase the performance, and you can also optimize it as well. So I'm not going to go through that in this tutorial. I have a full tutorial on Cloudways in the description below where I show you guys how to set up the emails as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to test the speed. All right, so let's go back over here, copy that URL, and then what we're going to do is we're going to type into Google. So what's my DNS.net, paste in your URL here, and then set A, and then search. So what we need to do is make sure that the A record has propagated all around the world. And once that is done, then it should take around 15 minutes. Now, once that is done, you need to install the SSL. So let's go back over here. Let's go to our applications and click on your application. So I am going a little bit faster because I just wanted to show you guys, and you guys can watch my full tutorial below. So SSL Certificate. Let's just put in the email. So parallaxdemo91@gmail.com. And for the domain name over there, and install the certificate on there. Okay. Then over here, we just need to click on enable. Click on close. So once that is done, then what I recommend you guys do is just wait maybe like 15-20 minutes and go to whatsmydns.net and put in your URL, set it to A, and then click on search. And then what you want to do is generally you want to see like all green. So it basically means it's propagated all around the world and your website is up and ready to go. So what I recommend now is I think it should be ready since most places is green. So we can go over here, open a new tab, paste that in, hit on enter, and then your website should be up and good to go. So sometimes if there is an error, then what you want to try and do is type in WP admin and try to log in to the area, so your dashboard area, and then put in your password, log in, so the old password that you set in, okay? And then you want to go to your plugins and you want to try and deactivate the WP fastest cache, or at least go to settings and then go to delete the cache and delete everything, okay? If that doesn't work, then what you want to do is you probably want to go to Cloudways and you want to go back to your server area and click this and then click on the, I think it was settings and packages, or it might be the managed services, so it might be that one. And then we want to click the varnish and purge that, okay? And maybe reset the Redis caching as well, right? So if you do have any troubles, then what I recommend is going to Need a Hand, and then you can contact the live chat support. So you want to always check your website before you sort of change your domain names. Check everything that it is all working and all good to go. Now, the problem that I faced sometimes is that sometimes the URLs don't change. And in that case, you want to contact the support team and they'll update the URLs for you. So for example, if you turn on the builder, you might notice that the image, for example, the background image over here, it might be still the old staging area URL. So you can manually change it if your website's not too big, but you can also contact the support as well, okay? So now what we can do is we can try the website, okay? So copy that URL and let's come back over here. Let's paste it in, and I'm going to set it to Sydney. So choose the server which is closest to you, the one that you selected before. Click on Start Test, and hopefully the website is going to be fast. So hopefully the website is fast already. So if you browse around, then as you can see, everything loads really quickly. When you click things, it just happens, right? So I think it's really, really awesome. So you can also check out some of the reviews on Cloudways to make sure that you want to actually switch to them, right? So you can actually go to, let's say for example, your HostGator, you can actually upgrade to the cloud hosting as well. That was what I was previously on. So basically I was actually on the shared hosting like years and years ago, and then I think around 2 to 3 years I switched to the HostGator cloud, and only recently I moved my main website to Cloudways on the new Vultr high frequency servers. So I moved my local website a few months ago and saw really great results. So that's why I decided to move my main website there. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Hopefully the speed is really fast. As you can see, that's like half a second, which is pretty good. So let's just see the San Francisco. So generally this might actually take a little bit longer. But generally it still should be pretty fast. So if you're building like an e-commerce website or a website with a lot of content and a lot of different plugins and functions, you definitely need a cloud hosting account. So leave any questions that you have in the comment section down below, and I'll try and get back to you guys as soon as possible. All right, so that is pretty good, 2 seconds, right? 2 seconds for Asia without a CDN network. Thank you and see you guys.